The story begins far beyond the gentle swirl of the Milky Way, in the cold expanse where the stars glimmer like ancient gods watching from their thrones. A massive Czarnian space bike tore through the darkness, its twin exhausts leaving trails of blazing plasma in its wake. Upon it rode Lobo, the main man himself, bounty hunter, intergalactic troublemaker, and unapologetic force of chaos. His black leather vest flapped in the void, his thick dreadlocks swayed under his spiked helmet, and his crimson eyes glimmered with that signature, "I'm gonna wreck something, mischief." Lobo had just finished a messy contract on the planet Zorthax 9, where his idea of apprehension involved blowing up half the capital city. He was covered in the dried blood of 3 different species and chewing on a cigar that by all means should have been extinguished in the vacuum of space. But as always, the laws of physics knew better than to argue with the main man. A message pinged across his wrist communicator. The bounty wasn't just big, it was galactic record, breaking big. The target? A man known only as Saitama. No crimes committed, no political reasons. The file simply described him as a bald human with unmatched strength, status unknown, danger level infinite. Avoid direct confrontation unless suicidal. Lobo's grin widened. Avoid confrontation, he thought. Sounds like my kind of party. Meanwhile on Earth, the sun shone lazily over City Z. In a humble apartment, Saitama sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by empty instant ramen cups. He had just swatted away yet another monster, a 50-foot crustacean mutant that had been terrorizing the city. And as usual, he had ended the fight with one punch. It wasn't that Saitama didn't appreciate saving people, but the lack of challenge had been eating at him. Every battle ended before it began. Every opponent crumbled like paper under the weight of his fist. "Man, this is getting boring," he muttered, scratching his shiny head. "Maybe I should take a trip somewhere, Mars or something." That's when the atmosphere shifted. Literally, a violent distortion ripped through the sky as Lobo's space bike pierced Earth's airspace, leaving a trail of burning streaks. The shockwave shattered windows and set off car alarms for miles. Genos, Saitama's cyborg disciple, appeared at the apartment door in a rush. "Sensei," he shouted. "Something dangerous just entered the planet's atmosphere. Power readings are off the charts. It's heading straight toward us." Saitama slurped the last bit of his noodles. Yeah, let's check it out." In the streets below, crowds fled in panic as the roar of an alien engine thundered above. Lobo's bike screeched to a halt in midair, held aloft by some form of gravtech, before dropping down like a meteor. He landed with the impact of a small earthquake, sending cracked spiderwebbing through the asphalt. Civilians scattered like ants. Lobo pulled a massive hook chain from his bike and rested it across his shoulder. "All right, cue ball," he called, out in his gravelly voice. "You're coming with me, dead or alive, but preferably in pieces, cause that's more fun." Saitama approached casually, his yellow hero suit rippling slightly in the wind, his expression utterly uninterested. "Oh, you're the dangerous reading Genos was talking about?" he asked flatly. "Dangerous?" Lobo smirked. "Nah, pal, I'm the main man, the one the boogeyman has nightmares about." The two locked eyes, Lobo's brimming with wild, destructive glee, Saitama's carrying that almost bored stillness. But there was something in the air this time, a faint tingle Saitama hadn't felt in years. An opponent who didn't flinch at his presence, one who wasn't trembling, one who wanted the fight. Across the galaxy, unseen to them, a coalition of alien warlords watched from cloaked satellites. They had placed the bounty not just to capture Saitama, but to test whether Lobo, known for his unstoppable resilience and bottomless rage, could actually bring down the so-called One-Punch Man. Billions of credits rested on the outcome. Wagers were being placed. Entire civilizations tuned in. Saitama cracked his neck. "All right, I guess I'll entertain you for a bit, but I've got groceries to buy later." Lobo spat out his cigar and revved his bike again, chains rattling, grin widening into something feral. "Groceries? You're about to be on the menu, frag face." Above them, thunder clouds rolled in unnaturally fast, as if the world itself knew that what was about to happen would shake the very laws of existence. On one side stood the ultimate mercenary of the stars, a man whose regeneration and brute force had toppled gods. On the other stood the man whose strength defied logic, capable of ending battles with a single blow. Two forces that had never known defeat, about to collide. And somewhere deep inside, for the first time in a long while, Saitama actually felt excited. The streets grew silent except for the faint hum of Lobo's bike and the rustle of Saitama's cape in the wind. The first move was moments away. The galaxy was about to witness a battle unlike any it had ever seen. The tension cracked like lightning as the two forces closed the gap. Lobo swung his hooked chain in a lazy arc, the metal links whistling through the air before snapping forward with bone-breaking speed. The chain shot toward Saitama's neck, only for the bald hero to tilt his head a fraction, letting the weapon whip past and carve a deep trench in the road behind him. Fast reflexes, Lobo growled. This might actually be fun. Saitama didn't answer. He stepped forward and flicked his fist out in a lazy jab. The air around it detonated, sending a shockwave that shattered windows for blocks. Lobo caught the blow with his forearm, grunting as the force sent him skidding back, his boots carving gouges in the ground. Blood welled at the corner of his mouth, but instead of anger, he smiled wider. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Lobo charged. His first swing came with the weight of a collapsing star, his fist colliding with Saitama's jaw in an explosion of debris. The ground buckled. The street caved in. For a split second, Genos thought his sensei might actually have been hurt, until the dust cleared, revealing Saitama standing in the same position, head slightly turned. That all? Saitama asked. Lobo's eyes lit up like a pyromaniac spotting a gallon of gasoline. Frag, no. The main man grabbed his bike with one arm, spun it overhead like a warhammer, and brought it down on Saitama. The impact cracked the city block into splinters. Fire erupted from the ruptured gas lines below, but Saitama simply caught the bike with one hand, holding it in place like a father catching a ball tossed by a toddler. Without warning, Saitama shoved it back, launching both bike and Czarnian into a half-demolished skyscraper. The entire building collapsed in a cascade of dust and steel. From the rubble came the sound of laughter. Lobo emerged, brushing off chunks of concrete. His wounds were already closing, the torn flesh knitting together in seconds. You hit hard, Baldy, but I hit harder, and longer, and meaner. He didn't wait for a reply. His chain lashed out again, this time wrapping around Saitama's torso. Lobo yanked with enough force to rip a mountain from its roots, sending Saitama hurtling skyward. In a blink, Lobo launched after him, the two colliding high above the clouds in a boom that rattled the atmosphere. They traded blows midair, fists meeting with shockwaves that ripped cirrus clouds into ribbons. Each strike from Lobo came like a meteor, raw, unrelenting force coupled with centuries of brawling experience. Saitama, however, moved with effortless precision, dodging when he felt like it, countering when he grew bored. Lobo spat blood and grinned. I've fought gods, demons, and everything in between. But you're something else, Cue-ball. Thanks, Saitama said flatly. You're not bad either. Lobo's grin twitched. Not bad. Oh, you're in for it now. With a roar, he pulled from his belt a glowing alien grenade the size of a human head. He shoved it into Saitama's chest and let it detonate point blank. The blast was a miniature supernova, engulfing them both in blinding white fire. City Z's skyline warped from the heat. The explosion could be seen from orbit. When the smoke cleared, Saitama stood untouched. His suit was a little singed. That was it. Cool fireworks, Saitama said. My turn. Before Lobo could reply, Saitama stepped forward with such speed the world blurred. His punch landed square in Lobo's gut, not with the casual boredom he usually had, but with enough force to send the Czarnian hurtling through the atmosphere like a comet. Lobo slammed into the ocean hundreds of miles away, sending a tsunami curling toward the horizon. He surfaced seconds later, coughing seawater, his healing factor already mending the shattered bones. And and he was laughing deep, guttural, genuine. "You're the real deal, Baldy. But the main man ain't stopping till one of us don't get up." Back on land, Lobo returned at full speed, his bike tearing waves in its wake. He rammed into Saitama, the two smashing through mountains, forests, and into the desert beyond. The earth tore open beneath them, fissures swallowing entire highways. They brawled across the landscape, each blow carving craters and sending seismic ripples for miles. Saitama began to feel it, that faint thrill of actually having to try. Lobo, for all his crude swagger, simply wouldn't stay down. No matter how hard Saitama hit him, he got back up, regenerating, laughing and swinging harder. But there's a difference between unkillable and unbeatable. They clashed one last time atop a massive mesa, the sun setting behind them in a blaze of crimson. Lobo's chain lashed out, Saitama sidestepped, and in that heartbeat, the bald hero's fist met the Czarnian's jaw with the full focused weight of his strength. The impact wasn't just a hit, it was a thunderclap that echoed across the planet. The mesa disintegrated, the shockwave flattened everything for miles, and when the dust finally settled, Lobo lay sprawled on the ground, eyes half-lidded, still breathing, but finally still. Saitama looked down at him. "Guess you're done." Lobo coughed, chuckled and muttered, "You win this one, cue ball. But next time I'm bringing a bigger gun." And with that he passed out, grinning even in unconsciousness.